Batman. Arguably the most iconic superhero of all time, the Caped Crusader has had many different actors play him in live action films throughout the years. But out of all 6 men who had the chance to play Batman in movies, I think out of all of them, despite being the most recent, I think Robert Pattinson is the best live action Batman out there. Alright. I know some people are already mad by this statement, but hear me out a bit. He embodies the traits of Bruce Wayne and Batman the most and is the most accurate depiction of the hero today. In today's video, I'll be showing you why Pattinson is the best Batman out there and why the other 5 men fall short. With that out the way, let's get started. So this video is basically divided into 2 sections. The first is about the 5 previous live action Batman throughout the many films and the positive and negative aspects of them. While the second, much shorter section will be about why Robert Pattinson is so great. So let's get the first one started. Let's get out of the way first. I won't be talking about any of the TV or animated Batman. There's probably a couple people out there disappointed, but I'm either not too familiar with them or they're just direct adaptations from the comics. The most notable exception is from I think Batman the Animated Series, but that's probably the most accurate Batman adaptation and a topic for another day. And also, when it comes to Adam West, yeah. Rest in peace, but his version of Batman really isn't the one we think of when it comes to today. He's a little too silly and cartoonish, and not the figure we think of today. When it comes to what makes Batman the character who he is, there's a few things I'll be looking about here. A selfless, courageous, and relatively introverted man, and one who is a great detective as well. The people he's surrounded by, his suit and gadgets, his no-kill rule, and just embodying ideas of what a superhero is. I'm not using math or anything to determine this. This is basically seeing how the good outweighs the bad. So let's start with our very first Batman, Michael Keaton. Keaton was the first true live-action Batman in film form, appearing in Batman and Batman Returns. He was in an incredibly tough position, being the first person to bring the iconic hero to the big screen, and receiving a lot of hate when cast, but for the most part, did an excellent job. Let's first talk about him in Batman '89. First off, I really enjoy the Batsuit, one of my personal favorites. Despite there being no neck mobility, it adds a lot of charm and really helps it stand out. Keaton's Batman has the usual suits and gadgets, Batmobile and Batarangs, but the one thing that really helps it stand out is the Batwing. It's really the only film that really uses a flying machine to its full potential, and it's by far the best Batwing. Its slick design emulating the bat symbol and use in the final act is really cool as well. The world of Gotham in Tim Burton's 2 films is one of the best versions of the world. Gotham isn't just some city like New York or Chicago, but it's instead an incredibly cramped and claustrophobic place, full of dark places and gothic architecture throughout. It's probably my second favorite version of the city. When it comes to Batman's allies in the film, honestly, this is probably his worst one out of any of his films. There's Alfred, and that's basically it. I know Vicky Vale is in this film, but she basically just serves as the force investigating the Joker and as Bruce Wayne's love interest. I don't know why, but the first 3 Batman films were so adamant on giving Batman a love interest in each film, even though that's not really a big part of his character. It tries really hard to have a Superman and Lois Lane type relationship, but Batman isn't the kind to have that type of relationship. Vicky Vale isn't the worst of these girlfriend characters, but isn't the best either and kind of hinders Keaton's Batman. But this next thing is what hinders Michael Keaton extremely as Batman, especially in Batman Returns. You see, director Tim Burton really likes his weird and wacky characters. Take a look at Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands for example, and even to the film's detriment would rather focus on those characters, notably in his version of Alice in Wonderland. And that's precisely what happens in Batman. Burton is so invested in Jack Nicholson's Joker and developing him, that he leaves Keaton's Batman behind completely. By splitting focus 50-50, it ultimately results in a great Joker, but pretty boring Batman. You don't really learn much about Batman or Bruce Wayne in this film that you didn't know beforehand, and it's pretty underwhelming when chunks of the film are focusing on them. Batman '89 is a pretty flawed film, especially when it comes to the characters and plot of the film, with Batman's characterization in the film being maybe the biggest problem with me when it comes to this movie. There's one big thing that also really hurts Batman. At the end of the film after beating Joker, Batman lets Joker fall to his death. This is a very common trope throughout basically every Batman film. Batman doesn't deliberately kill villains, but just allows them to die. Batman '89 starts that trend, and it's something we'll see more a lot later. That brings us to Batman Returns. While a better overall film, it takes most of the flaws of Keaton's Batman in the previous film and makes it even worse. First off, even less focus is put on Batman, the film being divided into thirds between the Bat, Catwoman, and the Penguin. Again, great for the villains of the film, but not that good for the Dark Knight himself. Also, Batman is kind of a lunatic in this film. He's straight up killing people and laughing at it. The two most memorable deaths are where he sets one of the Penguin's henchmen on fire with his Batmobile, and the other one attaching a stick of dynamite to another one and pushing him down a manhole. Again, we don't see their corpses or anything, but by human nature they're definitely dead. Keaton's Batman and Bruce Wayne really don't get that much development either. They're pretty cool, I guess. I mean, how could we forget about the iconic first scene of Keaton's Wayne? But it doesn't add much to his character. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman kind of serves as another sort of friend to his version of Batman. Not only the sexiest, but also the best Catwoman, she's much more developed than the literal lead of the film, but the little time between the two is a highlight of this movie. I haven't really talked about Michael Go's Alfred much, as he just serves as a butler and assistant to Bruce Wayne. Despite being in 4 Batman movies, he doesn't have much to do throughout other than help Batman, and doesn't have anything interesting going on other than in Batman and Robin, which we'll get to. Speaking of Batman allies that appear in the first 4 films, the Jim Gordon that appears in these first 4 Batman movies is such a boring and forgettable character that I wouldn't be surprised that many people who watch these films don't even remember him. He's basically a generic cop character in these films, and his relationship with Batman is practically non-existent. He's like a guy you work with at your job. You occasionally talk to them, but for the most part have nothing to do outside of work. Keaton's Batman is easily the loneliest one out of the 6 we'll be talking about today. It doesn't show the different sides of him as a human or a hero whatsoever. Batman Returns in the end took many of the flaws that his character had in Batman '89 and amplified it a bunch more, feeling less and less like the Batman we know of in the comics. Overall, Michael Keaton's Batman was a really solid starting point for the Caped Crusader in live action films, but had many flaws that were really never fixed. There's plenty of room for improvement, but let's see what the next few Batman had to offer. After Tim Burton and Michael Keaton left the Batman franchise, they were replaced by director Joel Schumacher and our next Batman, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer is probably the most forgettable Batman out there, probably the last one most people name when asked about what actors played Batman. Kilmer's Batman is like Batman Forever itself, a film with a lot of interesting things going for it, but overall very flawed and mediocre. When it comes to his bat suits and gadgets, they're fine. Again, probably the most forgettable out of any Batman. They're not bad, just forgettable. One tiny thing that I don't like about Kilmer's Batman is that he's blonde. Yeah, Batman should always have black hair no matter what in my books, unless he's old, so that knocks him back a little. One thing I really enjoyed about Kilmer's Batman is that he explains why the no-kill rule is so important to Robin. No other Batman does this, and this part of the film shows why Batman and his ideas and morals are so important even when you have polar opposite characters like the Punisher out there. Vengeance isn't everything in life after all. It is kind of hypocritical though, since he basically kills Two-Face at the end of the film. So right message, wrong messenger. Speaking of Robin though, let's talk about the supporting cast. Alfred and Jim Gordon are the same, but the film adds Robin to the screen as Batman's sidekick, I guess. To put it bluntly, I fucking hate this insufferable little shit. Robin does nothing in the 2 films he's in, barely able to take out a few goons without being beat up or kidnapped, leading to Batman having to save him again and again, this getting even worse in Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin are supposed to have a sort of father and son relationship, but in Joel Schumacher's films it always feels like an older brother and younger brother relationship, really changing the character dynamics between the two for the worse. We also have Chase Meridian, Bruce Wayne's love interest in the film, an even less interesting love interest. She adds practically nothing to the film and shouldn't have even been added in the first place, as the only thing she does is pad out this film. Batman Forever and the other 3 Batman movies from around this time are so weird because they can all serve as standalone films, but are also so interconnected by things that just confuses you if it's one Batman universe or multiple. Like in these 4 Batman movies, there were 3 different Batman and 2 Harvey Dents, but Alfred, Robin, and Gordon remain the same throughout. Past villains and other characters are never acknowledged in subsequent films and never reappear. It feels like they try to force it as one universe when it really doesn't feel like it. I guess The Flash sort of answers the question to this, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Val Kilmer's Batman is a step down from Keaton's that really doesn't do anything to try to reinvent the character. It really instead feels like it's supposed to be a replacement that feels as similar to Keaton's Batman as possible. It's no surprise that the vast majority of people forgot about Kilmer's Batman, as it never gave the actor a chance to shine and so was meant to be an actor in a bad costume instead.
Hi, George Clooney, second worst Batman.
If Kilmer's Batman was a step down from Keaton's, George Clooney's was an even bigger step down, resulting in a pretty bad Batman and easily the worst Batman film out there. Is there anything positive I have to say about Clooney's Batman? Not really, other than he's not the worst part of the film. And he's also one of the two Batmen who never killed during their own respective films. A nice touch to this atrocious film. But basically everything else sucks. His suit is terrible, one of the worst Batman suits out there, being over the top and way too cartoonish. And why did this suit have to have nipples? The gadgets and vehicles are whatever. Aside from the baffling Bat credit card, I can hardly recall anything about them. Let's talk about the supporting characters, Alfred, Robin, and our newcomer Batgirl. Despite Alfred almost dying in this film and having the most character development than before, it's too little too late, and the fact that this movie is so goofy doesn't help things out. Robin is even more of a little shit in this one, basically bickering with Batman the whole time and dropping one terrible one-liner after another, like the other characters of the film. The relationship is even worse than Batman Forever, never feeling like a team and feeling forced to be together in order to sell toys and products. And lastly, Batgirl. Maybe the most useless and forced character in any single Batman film, she feels incredibly forced in and ultimately does next to nothing the whole narrative. Sure, she's Alfred's niece, but in a film that already has Batman, Robin, Alfred, Mr. Freeze, and Poison Ivy, she's incredibly forgettable the whole way through and surrounded by already poorly written characters. Her presence adds nothing to the film. Batman and Robin misunderstood what makes the Bat family so important in the comics. Instead of being Bruce's found family that means the world to him, even though he won't show it on the surface, in this film instead feels like a bunch of annoying sidekicks. Batman in this film feels like Batman in name only as well. Clooney's character is not developed whatsoever. His Batman feels like a generic hero, and his Bruce Wayne has no charisma and confidence as well, despite the actor playing him. He doesn't feel like a hero, detective, or anything resembling Batman whatsoever. And considering everyone who worked on this film regretted making it in the first place, Clooney even apologizing, there is a reason that no one likes this version of Batman. Surprisingly, it's not the worst though, but still, George Clooney's Batman was a big setback for the character and showed many things not to do when adapting the character. But now, we have our Batman that many consider to be the best and most iconic to this day, and the one with the most films as well. That, of course, is Christian Bale's version of the character from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Let's start off with Batman Begins, which is a really good film and technically the only origin story in film for the character. The Nolan films are a lot more grounded than previous entries, and the post 9/11 setting crafts the world very familiar to ours, and makes our Batman feel more human and relatable as well. Honestly, aside from The Batman, Batman Begins is probably the most accurate film to the source material when regards to Batman. Christian Bale is really good as both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Much younger and less experienced, we see throughout the film as he grows and develops into the superhero we know. The grounded approach to the film works well, with the Batsuit, Batmobile, and other gadgets used by Batman working really well. It feels a lot less cartoonish, and more like something you'd see in the real world. Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow work really well as villains as well. Ra's as a mentor that needs to be defeated, and Scarecrow as a small yet powerful threat that also helps Bruce on his journey to become a hero. You know, he may have basically killed Ra's at the end, but still. Speaking of Batman, his allies in this film are a large part of what helps the Nolan trilogy as well. Michael Keaton's Alfred is a helpful figure to both Batman and Bruce as he slowly becomes the hero of Gotham City, with Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox helping develop Batman's gear being a nice addition as well. I'm so surprised this is the only live-action Bat films with Fox, a really useful character. And we also have Gary Oldman's Jim Gordon. Leagues better than the previous version, he actually serves as an ally to Batman rather than just a generic cop. You see the relationship grow throughout the film up until the very end, emerging as a friend to Batman. And Christian Bale, great in both roles, intimidating heroic as Batman, and confident and cunning as Bruce. Although I'm not a fan of his Bat voice, he's really competent and shows why Batman is a formidable foe to his enemies. A really underrated film, Bale's Batman in Batman Begins is really great and helped build an amazing foundation for the character. But unfortunately, the further we went with the trilogy, the more problems emerged. The Dark Knight. Not only the best Batman movie, but a classic masterpiece of a film by this point. Excels at being a crime and superhero movie. But As a Batman film, there are plenty of problems when it comes to some of the characters, mainly Two-Face and Batman himself. The Joker is amazing, of course, and the side characters do their job well, but not enough focus was put on the other two characters. I'm not going to go in depth when it comes to Two-Face. If you want to see a video on that, then comment below. But Batman suffers from many similar problems. The Joker is such a central focus of The Dark Knight, even more than the titular hero himself, so we spend large portions of the film showing why he's a threat rather than Batman and crew trying to stop him. Similar to Burton's Batman films, great for the villain, but not so much for Batman. Other than his relationship with Rachel Dawes, a pretty uninteresting character to me personally whose only purpose was to move the story forward and act as a close friend of Bruce, he doesn't face many interesting character developments. He may be pushed to his limits and has to investigate the Joker's crimes, but most people talk more about the villains of the film rather than the hero. The movie's amazing though, so that doesn't really hurt Bale's Batman that much though, but it shows how unimportant he can be in the grand scheme of things when the focus is taken off of him. And him killing Two-Face. Out of all of the people Batman has killed throughout the films, this one's probably the most egregious, but again, a topic for another day. If you want to see that video in the future, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps this channel and this video out a lot, and I greatly appreciate it. But okay, now we get to the final film of the trilogy, and the one that hurts Bale's Batman the most. The Dark Knight Rises. Man, I really hate this movie. One of the most overrated movies of all time. Wait, I'll stop. I'll leave that topic for my upcoming Christopher Nolan video. But basically, The Dark Knight Rises takes the problems I had with The Dark Knight and blows them up to a much grander proportion that actually hurts this film a lot. 4 brand new characters are introduced to this narrative. Bane, Talia, Catwoman, and Robin. Because the film has to introduce all these characters, on top of dealing with the characters and events of the previous films, this results in pretty one-dimensional and whatever characters. The new heroes don't do much, and the villains are shallow versions of the previous film's villains, and old characters get no development. The same can apply to Batman. Although he has to deal with the responsibility of the last film and later retiring as Batman, there's not much for him to do. It feels like Batman does little to nothing in this film, but somehow still became the highest grossing Batman film. It feels like his presence is wasted, and that's a real shame. If Bale had something more to do in this film, he could have easily been regarded as the best Batman, but alas, he isn't. Bale's Batman started off really promising and could have easily been regarded as the best live-action Batman in film, but poor writing and being sidelined in his own movies held him back. Christian Bale is really solid as both Batman and Bruce Wayne, but in the end, it didn't live up to his full potential. Ben Affleck, the worst live-action Batman. Yeah, basically no debates here. Ben Affleck's Batman feels much more like a parody than an actual live-action Batman. I'm going to only basically talk about Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice here. Not talking about the Justice League movies or his cameo in Suicide Squad, as it gave his character basically no character development. With literally one film, he already cemented his legacy. Affleck's Batman is a grizzled older Batman that's been fighting crime for years. He's just really depressed and unpleasant. Both his Batman and Bruce Wayne are tired, tough vigilantes that go to the insane measures to reach their goals. While Batman isn't the happiest hero, he's not brooding or sad all the time, unlike Affleck's version. Affleck has the ugliest suit. Literally just a worse version every way of the Nolan suits. His gadgets and vehicles are pretty forgettable as well. During this movie, the only ally he really has is Jeremy Irons' Alfred. I like Irons' Alfred throughout the DCEU. He's a really helpful figure throughout. But Affleck doesn't have anyone else. Affleck is really brutal in this film, branding enemies and literally gunning them down, and willing to kill Superman for pretty minor reasons. Batman vs Superman as a film really doesn't give Batman development despite it being his introduction, and since he never got a solo film, it remains that way throughout his tenure as the Caped Crusader. Obviously, since the film also focuses on Superman, attention was really divided, but he never really felt like a big part of the cinematic universe. He never has a good connection to any members of the Justice League, albeit for one which I'll get to, and even with other Gotham characters like Alfred and Commissioner Gordon, we just never see them together for a long time. Batman literally never even fights a Batman villain. Like, are we serious? Granted, basically all of the movies he appeared in were complete dog shit, so it doesn't help things out either. But he's still just so bland and whatever. He feels like Batman in name and costume only. It feels like the DCEU had no idea what to do with their most iconic hero. Ben Affleck doesn't even feel like he's trying, which with what he was given makes sense. But on basically every front, Affleck's Batman is the worst in basically every way. Without even a standalone film, you can't even rank him high whatsoever. There's basically nothing positive I have to say about Affleck's Batman at all, and because of that, he's pretty easily the worst live-action Batman in film form. Before we move on to the Batman and what makes Robert Pattinson's take on the character so great, I want to talk about one other film, the last time we saw Batman on the big screen. That being The Flash. Yup, that's right. The last time we saw Batman in movies was in The Flash, not The Batman. And it's going to be that way up until early 2028. Man, I really hate film delays. But, despite The Flash also being a really bad film, there's one thing about it that I really enjoy, that being the 3 Batman in it. Let's get George Clooney's Batman, or Bruce Wayne, first. This was just funny. Nothing too serious, but I did laugh pretty hard when this showed up, confirming that each Batman's in their own respective universe. Now let's get back to Ben Affleck's Batman. He's in very little of the film, and has most of the negative traits of previous entries, but his relationship with Barry Allen in the film is pretty nice to see. Batman in this film feels like sort of a mentor to the Flash, and shows more emotion in this film than ever before. Although extremely underwhelming, this was a sort of decent send-off to his Batman. And lastly, of course, Michael Keaton's return as Batman. All alone and retired from being the Caped Crusader, Keaton's Batman is given one last adventure when it comes to helping out the Flashes and Supergirl stop General Zod and return back to his universe. Sure, Batman's killing Kryptonians like crazy and is just as unhinged as he was in Batman Returns, but he's given plenty of time to shine and now live in the shadow of some of the members of his rogues gallery. He finds some pretty interesting companions like himself, is able to relieve parts of his glory days. These 3 Batmen had their flaws and are far from perfect, but in The Flash we gotta see them in a different light. I do have to give the film some props for that. But now, on to the final and the best Batman overall, that being of course, Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson and The Batman are overall not only the most recent adaptations of the character in his world, but the best and most accurate representations of them as well. The Dark Knight may be the best Batman movie, but The Batman is the best Batman movie, if you get my gist. Matt Reeves does a really great job of bringing another version of Batman to the big screen, and reinvents many elements of this universe, but also staying true to the themes and ideas of the many great Batman comics out there. Let's get back to Pattinson's Batman. First, the suit and gadgets. The Batsuit is very similar to Bale's overall while changing subtle things here and there, but the mask really helps him stand out. The short ears on the side, exposed mouth, and wide eyes alongside his eyelids really help him stand out in a fresh way, and that is what makes it a personal favorite of mine. His gadgets aren't anything out of the ordinary, not too over the top and pretty down to earth, but his Batmobile is the thing that really stands out. His Batmobile is like a regular car customized into the iconic mobile we know of today, feeling very personal and not disposable like other Batmobiles in the past. The raw look and build of the car, and especially the chase scene with the Penguin, really help it stand out in a great way as well. One trait of Batman that basically all films seem to ignore is his moniker of being the world's greatest detective. Some films straight up have no investigation or mystery, and the films that usually do have Alfred or someone else doing the investigating off screen, or Batman finding one clue and that being it. But in the Batman, Pattinson's Batman spends practically the whole film looking for the tridandy of the Riddler, spending basically the whole film looking for clues, confronting people, and trying his best to stop the incoming threat on Gotham. That's why the Riddler is the best villain to showcase his detective side, his clues and riddles pushing this version of Batman to his limits. And with Alfred out for the second half of the film, it's basically all up to him. A key trait of Batman, this was something most previous films ignored, but this one does a great job of doing that and making it feel like a neo-noir detective film of sorts. Speaking of Batman's allies, he really doesn't have many in this film, but it's fine. Andy Serkis' Alfred feels pretty distant to Bruce Wayne in this film, unlike his other appearances. This really shows how distant Bruce is in this stage of his life to other people in the film, especially at the beginning, while he slowly begins to warm up by the end with the help of Catwoman. Selina Kyle plays a pretty big part in the story, and connects really well with the crime families of the film, and being the most developed version of the character as well. Her chemistry with Batman is really good, carrying the large portions of the film pretty well. This version of Batman is in his second year of fighting crime. He isn't brand new at this, but he is an expert at her, still needing to find his footing. That's why the Riddler and the crime families work really well as villains. They aren't powerhouses like Bane or Mr. Freeze, but still give him enough challenge for him to develop as a character. And Pattinson's Batman doesn't kill anyone in this film. Extra points for that. And lastly, Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon. Him and Batman feel like equals when investigating the Riddler. And since Gordon is in so much of this film, we see why he's such an important character and why Batman does need the help of others and can't just rely on himself. Just like everyone else in this world and in ours, we can't do everything by ourselves. So having people to help us out really helps elevate us and our talents and abilities. I assume more of his friends, alongside his massive rogue gallery, will expand it on in the upcoming films when they eventually come out. But for starters, that's really good. Let's talk about Pattinson's Bruce Wayne for a second. We don't really see much of him as a normal person, other than his dark, emo demeanor as he navigates this corrupt world, but doesn't do anything that bad or egregious. It's not really a big focus of the film, just showing a young Wayne who really hasn't found his way yet. Again, this is just one film. The other highly regarded Batman had multiple films to develop them, but the brief time we see him shows a bit of a shy outcast who doesn't fit in anywhere as of now. He hasn't found his voice or found family yet, but has the same personality as other younger Batmen trying to find their way in the world. The world of Gotham and The Batman is a really interesting and fascinating world that Matt Reeves helped to create. Combining aspects of Burton's Batman universe and Nolan's, it creates a dark and gritty world unlike ours, but also not out of this world as well. Especially with the Penguin miniseries, we get to see a true city. Not a gorgeous set piece or a city like ours in the real world, but the home for Batman to save people time and time again. Like Superman with Metropolis, Spider-Man in New York, and The Flash with Central City, Gotham is a key part of Batman's character and who he is. And by establishing such a rich world so early on in this universe, we have created an amazing foundation for this version of Batman. Despite being in only a single film as of now, I can quite easily say that Robert Pattinson is the best Batman right now. Although we have to wait until early 2028 to see his next journey, seriously, fuck you JJ Abrams. Knowing director and writer Matt Reeves' love for the character and given creative control, I know it's bound to prove this point even more. It may be pretty premature to say this, but I have a strong feeling that this is bound to show more sides of Batman from the comics. I don't have anything remotely negative to say about him, and the strong quality of the film helps out a lot. If I had to rank all 6 Batmen overall, Affleck is definitely last, followed by Clooney, then Kilmer, Keaton, Bale as the runner-up, and Pattinson first. As of now, we don't know about any Batman film planned by James Gunn for the DCU, or anyone cast in that role, so we have to wait a while for Pattinson to return in the Batman Part 2. But to wrap things up, Robert Pattinson is the best Batman of all time, and that is why. Guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video and you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more stuff like this. I made a video pretty similar about Joker a few months ago, so if you like this video, I think you'll like that as well. I'm still in the middle of unpacking everything. If you watched my last video, I talked about that for a bit. I don't even know if this is going to be my setup for the future, but don't worry. Anyways, that's what I have for you guys this week, and I hope to see you all next time.